Hey guys, it's Mark here again on our third session, and today's session we are going to be discussing layers, and hopefully we'll get over to blocks and some of the properties. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to go into the layers straight away. If we look at the layer properties over here, you'll see layers. I'm going to click on my layer properties. It brings up this interface here, and what I'm going to state is new layer, and we're going to create a layer. So I'm going to create a layer and we're going to call this one dimensions. I'm going to change the color to red, or we can change it to green. It's going to be a continuous line. The default size, I'm going to make it a 0.18. Okay. I want you to notice on the side here, I can either plot it. Okay. If I don't want to plot it, I can put a little, just check that and you'll see that it'll show you that there's no way it'll plot it basically. So if I uncheck that, that's fine as well. Okay, so I'm happy with that particular layer. Let's create another layer. I'm going to create this one as a outline. And let's make this layer a cyan color, or we can make it any color that you want, and the outline generally would make it a 0.5 mil if we go in accordance to our standard. Okay, if you're looking at ISO standards will use a cyan. As far as I can remember, it's 0.7. So 0.7 color there for the cyan. And when we are working with our dimensions for 0.15, generally it's a magenta color, so we can change the color back to over to a magenta color if you want. Okay, I would like to also just place in another layer which is called a text layer. So I'm going to just place in the text layer. These are basic layers, so it's not going in depth. We could go in depth into the different types of layers, but I'm just going to just place in a few of the layers where we can just work with 0.5, 0.15. Okay, one more. So we've got an outline, cyan color. Okay, I'm going to change the color over here. Okay, we've got a blue color, we've got a cyan color, we've got a red color. Okay, generally your white color is a 0.5, but I'm going to make this a 0.5 for an outline. So your white color for your ISO text, ISO layers would be 0.5. Your blue would be, your cyan color would be a 0.7. Your magenta color would be a 0.15. Okay, and there's a 0.25. Can't recall the color for the ISO standards, but yeah, so these are the standards that I've got up so far. Alright, so over here it's got filters here that we can also utilize. So we can also create a filter. We can, if we're going to create a filter, you will see that my labeling will be slightly different. And creation of a filter, what you would generally do is you would have layers that you'll have almost a code in the beginning. So it might be coded as in E for electrical, E underscore. So you'll have an E underscore or for electrical, or elec, or building, B for building or whatnot. So you can literally take all the different, you can change dimension, change your layers and have layer filters so that you can select specific layers for specific jobs. Okay, so specific layers for specific jobs, that should Yeah, that should help if you are if you've got 101 different layers and you are working on just the building itself. Then you can at least segregate the building layers for that job. Okay, you'll notice here that our layers are all here. We can then place on whatever layer that you're wanting, outline, and we can draw up with it in the outline as well. Okay, if you look here, if we turn off layers, we can turn on layers, we can do all sorts of things here. Now, funny thing is, if I've got various layers drawn up or various lines drawn up, I'm going to just have 3 lines here. I'm going to offset this by 10 mil. Let's offset by 5 mil as well. And change the one layer over through to a dimension layer, and the other layer I'm going to change over to a text layer. Okay, I thought cyan color would be here. Okay, note, if I put the layer thicknesses on, okay, line weights on, you'll see that comes out. Alright, okay, so here it says off, so I can take that over to that, and it says the outline is current. Do you want to turn it off? So I'm going to say yes, and I can turn that off. Okay, so you can see that there's no layer there. Now it shows our little lamp on the side here is gone out, so it's dull. You can switch that back on and it'll come back on. Okay. Alright, so I can switch off various layers. I can isolate layers. It says hides or locks. Okay, so let's hide or lock this one. Okay, enter. Alright, so you can see it's just the rest of the layers that we had drawn up, or the rest of the lines that we had drawn up. It has made that go out of the picture, and you can see over here it literally switches it off. Okay, and I can also lock it. I can lock my layer. If I lock the layer, if I lock it, you'll see it goes slightly dim. Okay, and if I've locked that, the nice thing is that anyone trying to work on it, let's say they select it, they will try and do something with it, but they can't do anything with it. So they can't copy it, they can't move it, they can't do anything with it. So I find this kind of helpful when you've got a drawing that you have done, and that it is a drawing that you need to be locked in place due to the fact that there might be junior draftsmen coming on board. They might take that drawing and try and move it or whatnot, and you don't want it moved. Some of the drawings that you will do in the 3D realm or in the 2D realm, you don't want them moved, because if it moves the position, then it moves it for other drawings, which might not be a problem in the future. Okay, so I'm going to unlock this one now. Okay, you can see it brightens up a little bit. I'm going to unlock the 0 layer as well, and I'm going to turn on the other layers. Okay, so there you can see all the different layers that come back on. Okay, here freezing layers, it does the same thing. It'll turn it off. So it turns off layers that you freeze. Okay, so if I'm going to select those, alright, that's not doing it right now. Let's get back into the layer properties, and you can see from here. Okay, so you go freeze on. There's a freeze here, so I'm going to freeze this one and freeze that one. So you'll see what happens. It literally switches it off. For some reason my freezing of the layers is not operational over there. Okay, so you can freeze your layers, you can lock the layers, you can isolate the layers. I like the isolate command due to the fact that if I'm working on certain aspects of the drawing, I can isolate the layers that I'm working on, and I can work on it further with the other layers out of the picture completely. Right. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the other commands down there at the bottom, not as yet. Okay, so far we've just discussed the layers, how to create the layers, the various layers. You can see the little check right next to that. It's just telling me that it is on right now. So that's the layer that's operational at this point in time. Okay, I want to move over to the blocks. So this is going to be I'm just touching base on some of the various components so that you'll be able to just work on whatever project you might be working on, or if you're wanting to draw at a faster rate, or just the basics for now is what I'm looking at. So I'm not going in depth into the advanced. Alright, so here we have a block. Okay, so I'm going to go into insertion of the block quickly. It comes up with this interface here, and we can go browse. We can look for the various blocks that we have. So if I'm going to go into any of my any drawing, so any drawings that I have, I can utilize this command here. So I'm just looking for one here, demo. There we go. There's a drawing over there that I can bring in as a block, but it comes in as one complete drawing. So it's not, you have to explode it to have individual lines then in that case. Okay, another way that we can do this, so I'm going to cancel that, is if I press Control 3, I bring up my blocks over here, and this is I can bring in the electrical ISO, IEC electrical. In South Africa we use the IEC standards. In America you would use anti-IEEE standards. Okay, so that's for the electrical side. Alright, so okay, you will see on the structural there's imperial and metric. Okay, we would use the metric I-beams or columns or whatnot over here. How this would work is, if I'm going to bring this in, I can place that down. Remember, it's in accordance to the layer. Okay, now I can select this. There's a little down arrow that I can select as well, and then select whatever size I'm wanting as far as the I section is concerned, or H section that I'm looking at. Alright, so when bringing this in, there's two things that I can do. So there are a few things. I can scale it, I can rotate it. Okay, so I place it in at a base point. The main ones that I'm going to be highlighting is rotate and scale. So if I'm going to scale, I can click on scale, and it tells me what scale factor. If I say 2 times and press enter, you'll see it's 2 times the size that it was. Alright, now remember that is in accordance to the drawing scale that you have. Okay, so it might be that your drawing scale would be 1:10. That means it's divided by 10, and that is if you're going to be drawing placing it onto a drawing template in AutoCAD, the model space, then you are going to be then placing it as scale 1 divided by 10. So if you've made that mistake, then you just say 1 divided by 10, and you'll see it's going to come out a little bit smaller. Okay, which I'm going to have to zoom in to actually look at. Okay, if I don't want that, we can just say scale 1, and it brings it back to the size that I wanted. Okay, if we're going to rotate, we can rotate it 90 degrees, or whatever degree that you're wanting to rotate it. We can rotate it again, so I can press R as well to rotate, make it 270, and I can rotate it 270 degrees. Alright, so that's quite helpful as far as when you're wanting to just bring it directly in. Sometimes I've brought in these various components and then have to rotate it afterwards, yeah, you can do that, but it's going to cost you just a little bit more in your time. Okay, we can select whatever profile we are wanting. So if it's a larger profile, you'll see. Okay, so this is the these are intelligent or smart types of blocks that they have, which I can select whatever type of block, and then it'll change it in accordance to what I'm needing. Right, and you'll find that your various symbol libraries, so you'll see these little tabs on the sides, your various symbol libraries that you have might look a little different to mine. It's because I've created additional ones. In training previously, I've had to create additional tabs. What I can do is I can delete some of these tabs. So I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to then delete that tab. It says, are you sure you want to remove this tab? You click on OK and you can remove it. I'll do the same with that one. Okay. Alright, so you can see that's the various types of the various types of blocks that we've got. Okay, that one I don't need. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now I want to show you how we can create a simple block. Okay. I'm going to take, let's take and I'm going to draw up a quick drawing of, we can do an eye section. Okay, we can make this 20. We can offset that. Okay, that's a little bit too much. Okay. I'm going to do a simple eye section, just not something too complex. Okay, I'm going to take that one out. Alright, you'll notice that I haven't drawn everything to the snaps and whatnot. Let's place in a radius of say 0. Okay, this is not, it's a drawing that is not exactly to the dimensions of a normal H section or whatnot, so please don't take this to heart. It's mainly just to get just to show you how a block is actually done. Alright, so there is our H section. I'm going to select this. I'm going to type B for block, press enter. Okay, so my block definition comes in, and I can then type in H section or whatever type of H section that you've got. Don't place any dashes in. Okay, H section, even if we place spacing and whatnot. I'm going to make this unit millimeters. Okay, notice here the base point is specified on screen. I've already selected the object, so I don't need to specify that on screen. Okay, so I've got that there. It shows me the little icon there, shows me that the H is already selected. Okay, I can specify on screen the base point. That just means that I'm going to be placing a base point where it'll come in. So it'll come in at that particular point. I can do it in the space, or I can do it on the object itself. The behavior, I'm going to allow it to be exploded. Alright, annotative, I'm not too concerned about that for now, and scale uniformly, I'm not too concerned about that at this point in time. Alright, so I'm going to click OK. It now tells me at the bottom here, specify the insertion base point. So there's my base point, and you can see it's gone right down because I've placed it into millimeters. Okay, so there, when I select it, there's my base point, and I can even place on my, if I press Ctrl 1, here's my properties, and there it tells me block reference. Okay, so there's my block reference because I've selected it. And let me just keep that on that side there. I'm going to close that. Okay. I'm going to press escape, so there's no selection at this point in time. If I select this, for instance, it says block reference once again. And you can scale, you can just scroll down. You'll see there it says WF beam metric, and it can go into the size W200 by 100 by 15. Okay, so that's how what it's actually telling you about on that size. So it's what you've selected on that. Okay, so let's go back into our little block here that we have. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to type in W for W block, and it'll bring up exactly my file path where I'm wanting to save it. I can save it within template H or various projects. I don't want to save it there, so I want to go into my local C drive, my desktop. Okay, and it's going to AutoCAD files. Okay, I'm going to just save it as an H section over there. Alright, and I don't want it in millimeters, I want it unitless. You can click OK. Alright, so now when I select that, the name tells me H section. Okay, so it tells me a little bit about this particular section. Alright, depends on how much information you've placed in. Okay, so there we go, that's the block that has been created. I'm going to delete this out. I'll take that out, and then let's look at exactly, if I state in insert, I can then go into WF beam or H section once again and bring in my H section that I've just drawn up. Right, so it's imperative to take note of what you are saving it as. If it is in millimeters, the units as well, so the types of units that you are saving it as, make sure that you either make it unitless or in inches or millimeters, depending on where you are at. Okay. Alright. If we look here, this is define attributes, attribute blocks. I'm not going to go into the attributes as yet, because when we start to create templates or have attributes on our actual blocks that we've created, we can then place in defining attributes and whatnot, and that will then help us. I could define attributes. Let's say, for instance, if I'm drawing up a pump, I can define its attributes by placing define attributes and whatnot, and then it will then allow me to place in the attributes of the pump whenever I'm placing in a pump. So it might be for a process flow diagram that we are doing or whatnot. Then you can place in define attributes to define what the pump is or what type of pump it is for a particular block that you've got. So the blocks on a process flow is just, it's going to be just standard blocks for a pump. It's not going to be the exact size of the pump. It's not going to be anything fancy to look at. It's just going to be a small little symbol basically of a pump, and then I can define the attributes of that pump by just placing in define attributes. So that's just an example of where we can utilize it. Okay, if we look over here, On our properties, we've got match properties over here. We can match properties of our various, I'm just going to go out a little bit, so I'm going to press escape. Alright, so if you see here, we've got match properties. I'm going to match properties of that to that one there, or to that one there. So I can match properties over here. If I state dimension over there and say match properties, okay, note it's not placing it in because of that layer there, okay. But what it would do is, if we go back, is if I state match properties, click on that, now I can click on wherever I'm wanting to change. So what I'm wanting to change over to, so if that makes a bit of sense, so I'm going to change from that one to that. So you can see it's a faster way of just changing your properties. What I tend to do is I like to select an object or select the various components and then change the actual properties here. So I can change it over to whatever layer I'm wanting to change it to. Alright. Okay, so in our properties here, it's very similar to your standard properties. Control 1, when I press Control 1, I can bring this up as well. So I can change properties here, and I can change properties here. So the properties of the actual layer. So the layer itself, it shows you by layer or by block. By block, we'll just say, let's select that red line over there. Let's state by block, it's going to make it white. Okay, by layer, that's fine. Alright, and I can change the line weight of that particular line. I can change it to whatever line weight I'm wanting, but this I don't like to do that too much. I prefer just creating another layer to change the various line weights or line styles into whatever I'm wanting to change it. So here's line styles. I can say other, and if I don't have anything there, I can then load and bring in a different type. Let's say, for instance, dashed line. We bring that in, and I can place that on and say OK. Then I can change that to a dashed line. So if I'm going to change that type of a line to dashed, you can see that it comes out quite solid. Alright, it is sometimes due to the scale that I'm using. So you'll see here now, if I extend this line out, you'll see that it's with the extended line, it looks a lot better. But if I don't, it looks solid. Alright, so I'm going to change that back to the by layer. Okay, that's on my line styles. Line weights, line styles. Okay, and I'm going to stop at that. Okay, we can look over at our properties. We can bring it out here. I'll press Control 1. That's the same thing. The little arrow on the side there can bring out our properties. Okay. Alright, the grouping, and I've shown a little bit on the utilities. I'm not going to go into the grouping too much. If I'm going to, we'll select that, we can state group. So what's going to happen now, if I select it now, it clumps everything together. So I can then move it. If I've just selected one of the objects that are in the group, I can move it. I can also ungroup this as well. So I can ungroup it, and now it is no longer part of the group. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight those two. I'm not going to go into any of the other tools on that at the moment. Okay, so now let's look at the measuring tools. If I'm going to do a straightforward measurement, select to select. Now it's going to tell me a measurement here, 17.8249. Okay, that's the distance. If I'm wanting to select a radius or angle, I can then select it over here. So that's my measuring tools there. You can also go into the radius, angle, areas, or whatnot. Okay, so that's for measurements. over here, it's telling me quick select. I've not utilized quick select too much. Okay, select all. We have a quick calculator, so these two I've not utilized that much. Quick calculator I find quite useful. So if I'm going to bring up the quick calculator, it doesn't come up quickly, but anyway, there it is. So let's say, for instance, I want to calculate. Yeah, I've got to click on this first. 98 multiplied by 100. Enter. That's going to give me a figure over there. Now, sometimes if I'm busy with a command and I go into that, okay, let's say divide that by 50, enter, 196. Okay, there's a way we can actually, so you can utilize a calculator while you're busy in this command here. Type in 196 or whatnot, you can bring that in there. I have utilized it where I can bring in that dimension directly into my command, and it brings it in quite effectively. So yeah, you've got scientific, units conversion, variables, so you can play around with that command as well. Okay, so when I go to the point styles, alright, so I've gone into the utilities, I go over to the point styles. I think I have discussed this previously when using one of the tools here. You will see that we can bring in my, so I'm going to divide up a line, for instance. Okay, so let me get out of that. Let's divide this up into two. Okay, so you'll see that it brings in my my point style, that ID, so that ID of the point, that brings that one in. So not the ID point, but it just brings in the point style there. Okay, all right, so those are the tools that I would utilize. This is quite a short and brief type of demonstration that we have for today, and I hope you enjoyed the session. Guys, practice as much as what you can. Practice always makes perfect when it comes to AutoCAD. And remember, if you don't have anything to practice, or if you are wanting to just play around as much as what you can, my advice to you is take an object, measure it up, draw it up on AutoCAD in a 2D frame. Okay, so if it's a 3D object, don't go into the 3D side, rather draw up one of the sides of that object, so that you can just have a little bit of practice. Maybe it might be the screen that you can measure up, you can draw it up on AutoCAD. It might be something a little bit more complex, like a globe, but on a 2D scale. So remember, on a 2D scale, you're just drawing up the globe itself. Look at it, measure it up, see exactly how to do it on AutoCAD. The main aim is to practice as much as what you can, so that you can become more efficient in AutoCAD, and ultimately you're going to speed up your processes. If you start to exercise with AutoCAD to the extent that you start to become very good at it, companies like it when you are able to draw quite effectively and fast in AutoCAD, so that they can get their jobs out ASAP. Alright, so I hope that's helped. Remember guys, you can subscribe below, and tell me what you think of this session. If you want me to go into something that I maybe was not clear on, please let me know in the comments below, and just yeah, tell me what you think. Yeah, cheers.